haven't worn headphones since I've had a fringe. Let me just...
I
don't even...
It looks good. I like the
Gotcha.
fringe.
Thank you. It's a real pain in the ass.
How's the sound for you? Like, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Yeah, I like when the headphones are on, it be done. Like, that's all I hear is the music.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear anything else.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm walking down the street,
Yeah.
Taylor Swift is the only person I want to hear. I don't want to
Have
hear
you
anyone
been
else.
to her show?
No, and
Neither.
I cry every day. I actually cry every day. Welcome to Behind the Allergy, a podcast all about allergic conditions, hearing open and honest insights from the people who are behind them, from allergy reactors to free-from brands to allergists. This episode is with Morgan Moore, founder of How to Coeliac. She is a gluten-free content creator specialising in comedy and food reviews in London, but she hails from New Zealand. She was diagnosed with celiac disease in 2018, and since then, she has been passionate about finding and creating delicious gluten-free food so that no one feels like they have to miss out. If you are going somewhere in Europe, no doubt Morgan will have a gluten-free guide for you. I hope you enjoy the episode and go away learning more about her story behind the allergy. So, hi! Welcome to Behind the Allergy.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah. So basically, I said to you, I'm in awe of like what you have done with the platform that you have got. Like, I have been following you for years. I do not have celiac disease. I went gluten-free like one time in my life and did not work for me because I didn't have a problem with gluten.
Fair enough.
But I did have a problem with corn, and I had more of an effect
Yes.
going gluten-free than
So much corn and gluten-free food.
so much corn. I was so bloated. I cannot tell you.
Oh, no.
It wasn't great, but I thought, what if?
Yeah.
You know, so that was a 20-year-old Lindy. So when I followed you, I basically, when I realized that you had like a performing arts background and things like that, I was like, oh, well, I can relate to that. Like, I went to drama school, so I can relate to that. And you were just funny. You brought like information to light and to like the audience was so funny, but also so relatable that I was like, well, yeah, I have to follow her. And now like over time, it just is like, it's like a go-to for me. Like, I don't have an understanding of what happens like between cross-contact, cross-contamination, the levels in which like, you know, how many ppms people can eat depending on their, you know, gut and all of that. And so for me, you are my resource. Like, you have understood a little bit more of the allergy side too, because that makes me feel more comfortable to like refer people to you because I know that you are paying attention. Yeah.
That's very kind of you to say. I feel very like I don't deserve that.
No.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, I just, like you said, had a performing arts background, and I think the pandemic kicked off a lot of different Instagrams, a lot of different accounts, and that was the same for me. And I sort of peaked mid-lockdown when it was so you couldn't go anywhere, do anything. And I was like, well, I'll just start making skits. I honestly didn't think that they were going to be that relatable. But as soon as I did one and people were like, hundreds of people were like, that's exactly what's happened to me. I was like, oh, cool, sick. So, yeah, I just started doing that. And then it has transformed sort of alongside my life. But, yeah, it's very fun. And thank you very much for saying that. I've followed you for ages as well. You're an amazing advocate for the allergy community. But, yeah, it's very interesting how they're sort of, like you're saying, that not quite the same. They're sort of separate, but there's a lot of messages that show up in each one that are the exact same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I also find like there's this thing, because I have had allergies a long time. Like, I'm a 90s baby.
Since birth?
Yeah, since birth.
Wow.
So for me, like, I've like over 30 years and I have seen the transformation over time of allergies, but also of gluten-free life, because when I was growing up, it was gluten-free was a lifestyle choice, not a thing that happened to you or not a disease or anything. It was like people decided to not have gluten because of weight loss or whatever, and it was a choice that they are making.
It's thanks to Gwyneth Paltrow.
That is exactly the person I thought. In my head, I was like, well, Gwen did that. Yeah, exactly. And it was very diet-based rather than, you know, your body is rejecting an ingredient of food, you know? And so and it also was hard for me because a lot of gluten-free stuff is things that I'm allergic to. So I found that the way that the gluten-free world went rejected the allergy world, because a lot of the gluten-free things the nut-free things are usually always gluten-free too. Yeah. But if it is something I'm allergic to, like a pea protein, a chickpea, or anything like the flour, then I can't have that. But it's not free, but I still can't have that.
Pea protein's everywhere now.
Everywhere. I mean, it's the cheapest thing that you can buy. And
I'm so sorry that you can't have
that's
that.
The pandemic for you. Growing up, like, at this point, I'm grateful that I can eat anything. So, like, it's not hard for me, but I think it's hard for some people. Like, pea allergy has grown immensely over the last few years, and it now needs to be more recognized into, like, an allergy, like, into the top 14, basically. Yes. But yeah, I think it was hard for me to accept the gluten-free world because it rejected me so much.
I can understand
that. Over time, I started to see the gluten-free community online grow so much and the celiac community grow so much. I actually started to look into it, and I actually started to realize that, like, some people it's not a choice, and some people it's a serious condition that is as impactful as my allergies are to me. And my world opened up to, just because I don't deal with it doesn't mean it's not something that's important. You have had your diagnosis 6 years?
Yes.
About, yeah. How, I mean, that's all my research has shown me.
Yeah, I think so.
How have you seen the celiac and gluten-free community change from when you were diagnosed to now?
I would have to relate it to sort of the growth of social media, because when I was diagnosed, I didn't immediately make a friggin' Instagram about it, but I think it was about a year after. I had a really good pizza in Italy, and I was like, the world needs to know about this. So that's why I started my Instagram, even though, you know, a lot of people know about Mama Eat in Italy and how good it is for gluten-free. And so my sort of knowledge and growth in myself has come a lot from a community that is on social media in the gluten-free world. So 6 years isn't a long time, but I do know a lot of people that have been gluten-free for much longer, and their stories of, like, having prescription bread and pasta and that's it back in the early 2000s, pre-Gwyneth Paltrow, and how much it's changed even since, like, as recently as, like, 2014. Like, it's absolutely bursted. It seems like people have clocked on to it being a profitable revenue in supermarkets, and so everyone's sort of jumped on board, which is, you know, incredibly helpful. And with a lot of people avoiding gluten, I think roughly it's like 10% of people. It's still like a massive market. And then I was just obviously diagnosed before the pandemic. Mostly what I saw was during the pandemic, everything being taken back away, like realizing that it was kind of, it felt like to some supermarkets or retailers that the gluten-free was just like it was an extra thing that they did just cause, not because they thought that it was necessary or that there was, like, necessarily, like, that's where their money lied. And so when people were stripping back, it often felt like the first things to go were all the gluten-free food items. And it's only been really like this year that I've seen a resurgence of gluten-free food. And that's only a small part of celiac disease, is eating, but it's a big part of my life because I love food.
It's a major part of life, though.
Yeah.
And I think that people don't really understand that.
Yeah.
Like, allergy-wise, like, we can't stop eating.
No.
So, like, it's a big factor.
Yeah, so true. And that's what I always say. I go, some people go, oh, it's lucky you can just remove gluten from your diet. And in a sense, that's true. For an autoimmune disease, it's a very straightforward way to treat yourself. But it is such a big part of your life because you eat 3 or 4 times a day with snacks or whatever. And it's a huge life change. In terms of like actual celiac research stuff, every year there's like Coeliac UK meetups, and their research is just phenomenal. Like every time I don't feel like they necessarily talk about it as much, but they're discovering such amazing things and looking into ways you can be diagnosed without having to eat gluten for 6 weeks. A lot of people, once again, probably because of Gwyneth Paltrow, just go, oh, I'll just take gluten out of my diet and I'll feel way better. Or there's certain brands that are now going like, we're bloat free. So remove gluten from your diet so you can stop bloating. And it's like, let's hold on a second. But a lot of people do go gluten free because they figure it out that that's what's affecting them. And to go back on to eat gluten and for 6 weeks can be really detrimental and a really like awful, painful time. I think I'd given up gluten like a week before I actually decided to go talk to someone about it. So it wasn't too much of a shift for me. But to see that there's research being done into that, I think only, I'm not very good at remembering statistics, but 30-something% of people that have celiac disease are actually diagnosed and the rest don't know about it. So there's like a whole pool of people that are living with it and don't know, and they could be silent celiacs, or they don't have symptoms, or they could have already just taken gluten out of their diet because they knew it was affecting them but never actually had that formal diagnosis. So it looks like I think we're really lucky. Coeliac UK is like a really great charity, and they're doing a lot of research, and I think ever since there's been some big incidents with like retailers like Pret and Natasha's Law coming in, there's been a huge change in understanding dietary requirements that I've found in the UK. Because I think that, when did that come in?
2022?
Yeah, it wasn't long ago.
Yeah.
But to see the switch and what that effect was like, wow, like that's a real difference that they've made with that. And the reaction for some places is to go like, well, we're not going to do any allergies ever, but we'll never, nope, none of those in here, please. But other places have really embraced it and, you know, taken on the responsibility of training your staff and making sure things are properly safe. And there's just, in general, a lot of understanding about allergens, I think, more so than a lot of countries that I've been to. Maybe not Australia. Australia was really good for gluten-free. But yeah, did that answer the question?
I think so. No, I think so. I think there's so many different spectrums that we have. And by embracing the spectrum, it's not to say that one is better or worse than the other. It's to understand, okay, what do I need to do to cater for this person specifically? So especially when I was working in the service industry, I was like the allergy person to my team, and I was saying, you have to ask them what the severity of what they are telling you, because most people could just say, well, I'm gluten-free. Okay, but that's different to celiac. So you ask them, are you celiac or are you gluten-free? Most people would say, oh no, I just don't eat gluten. Yeah. Cool, fine. But that changes what we serve them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, you know, beer on the line versus cider in a bottle is very different.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like we have to know what to serve them. But that also allows the customer to feel like, oh, we understand.
Yes, I agree.
And then you feel safer.
Yeah.
When people understand like, are you anaphylactic or are you not? I'm like, well, now I trust you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I feel like that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Like the awareness and the understanding is because people are taking time to realize the spectrum in which allergies live.
It's an interesting example because I also see people, not that I actually at all agree with this, but I know some people don't actually like being asked, is it preference or do you have an allergy, is what generally maybe I would get. Not so many, more places are actually asking if you have celiac disease, but in the past I've gotten like, is it a preference or an allergy? I'd be like, allergy, because, you know, that means, to me, that hopefully means that they'll take it seriously. Yeah. But a lot of people don't actually like that question because they go, well, you should be treating it the same. But, you know, I can also understand, also working in hospitality, that's a lot of extra work to be doing for anyone that has a preference or, you know, instead of an allergy. So that's interesting. I've never found that question annoying, but I know some people do.
I think in that asking those questions allows the server to let you decide what's safe for you and what's not. We're still going to be taking it seriously. Well, I hope they are. But we need to know at what level of severity it is for our sake. You know, but I think because so many times people reject you if it's so severe, people get scared to tell them how severe or how not severe, or, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all a minefield. Anyway,
It is.
we're coming here to talk about humor because one of the things that I love about you, and I said this at the beginning, is that you do find the humor in your condition.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times if you get diagnosed, and like I have this too, it's such a burden to bear, and it's such a hard thing to grasp to try and make light of. And it's not that you make light of the condition, but you make light of, like, you know, the circumstances around it. And I think there's a lot of allergy jokes, people joking about eating nuts on planes and like, well, you should just kick them off and like all of that. And people like stand-up comedians. And I always think there is a humor in our condition. You just have to do it the right way.
And it's the same with anything, eh?
Yeah.
Like there's just some terrible, and This Morning, did you see that? Of course you probably saw that. Terrible.
But this is the thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's like people think that it's funny to make jokes. But it's like, yes, but there are certain jokes that aren't funny, and then you can make light of a situation. You don't have to make light of the condition, and I think you do that really well.
Well, yeah, and it also helps having the condition. I think anyone outside of it, you'd be like, what? Sorry? Why are you laughing about this? But yeah, in an interesting sense, I do keep it very like gluten-free related. I would actually find it uncomfortable or perhaps like inappropriate for me to expand that bubble to talk about other allergies. I mean, I wouldn't even go so far to maybe do a lactose joke, because that's not, it was actually, I did have to go dairy free for a while, but I'm okay now. But that's not necessarily my remit. So celiac disease is something that I have, and it's something that I experience. So it's, for me, very easy to have a laugh about. And also, on the other side of that, I grew up potentially only taking in information if it made me laugh. So I don't know if you ever had like people come to schools and do talks on all sorts, like your body and how it's changing when you're like 10, and they'd make it really fun or funny, or maybe they were all cringe, but I thought it was funny at the time. But anytime something like that would happen, or someone was actually really passionate or comedic about the way they spoke about things, I was like, wow, I'm so interested in this. I'm going to do whatever this person's doing now. What a really interesting astrophysicist. I shall be one. Like, that was just me. So I think it's a really useful tool to getting across information, and for helping people around the people with gluten intolerances or celiac disease or wheat allergies to understand sort of a little bit more about how it feels for us on the outside, I think. I'd like to hope, and sometimes people do say, oh, I sent this to my mum, or I sent this to da-da-da, so that they could understand it better. And like, I love that. I go, oh, I feel like I'm actually doing something useful instead of just sticking around. But yeah, no, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, but do you find, sometimes I do this with, because allergies are so specific in that I can eat out at this place because I don't have a gluten or dairy, like French restaurants. I don't have gluten or dairy. So I can have the bread and the butter and all of this. And like, I find it's hard to share because I'm like, this is amazing place for me. But a lot of my followers have either a wheat allergy or a dairy allergy, and they can never eat there, or it would be harder for them to eat there. And I find giving advice like that, or saying this is the spot for you, it just doesn't work. With gluten, it's a whole community that just avoids gluten.
Yeah. And for a lot of people, gluten's the first, like the most severe allergy that I suppose that follow me. Not necessarily, but for a lot of people, it's like gluten first, and then we'll see if there's vegetarian, or see if there's dairy free, or we'll see if there's this options as well. In saying that, I do, New Zealand and Australia, you can't have oats, full stop. But in the UK, you can have oats that are considered gluten-free, processed separately. And it goes back to like a structural thing. Avenine in oats looks really similar to gluten, the gluten protein, glutenin, whatever it's called. And 1 in 4 celiacs react to oats. So New Zealand and Australia have gone, no oats for anyone. Whereas over here it's gone, yeah, try it out, see if it's for you.
Interesting.
And it's, I never get, when I first moved over here and started posting about stuff, and I actually didn't know about oats because I literally left the country when I got diagnosed. So I was like, oh yeah, this says it gluten-free. And luckily I don't react to oats. So that's thank goodness. I think it's actually 1 in 5 celiacs. I don't know. Once again, don't take any statistics that I say.
Honestly, guys, not doctors.
Yeah, no, not doctors. I say this all the time. Not a doctor. Please don't ask me any advice.
Not an allergist. So any facts that you hear today, it could be out of nothing.
Yeah, I'm just making them up. Pulling them out of thin air.
Google. Google it.
But when I first moved over here, I did have a lot of angry messages about oats. Being like one person I remember because it was just like quite funny. They were like, how dare you?
Oh.
That's
coming in strong.
How dare you not follow the rules of the country that you're from in regards to oats? And I was like, what? It's just,
what rules?
I was like, oh, okay. Like, I'm like, well, I can eat them. I'm fine. I've been tested. I got retested so I could defend these allegations that actually they're like, well, you don't know that you actually cannot have oats because you haven't been retested, blah 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 blah. And I was like, well, actually I have. And so I did that to defend myself.
Imagine defending yourself to strangers.
90% of my day.
I know. It's such a baffling world that we live in, that we're defending ourselves to people who don't know us.
I know. And also, when a video goes viral, it goes to audiences that do not understand the context, and you just get the absolute ass wipes of the internet going like, well, firstly, you said bread funny. Like, yeah, I have an accent. So do you. So do we all. I had this one video that I did for Shah, and I think they love Shah. I think that they boosted it to somewhere in America. I don't necessarily ever get comments like that unless I can, the video's doing in the US somewhere. It's just, viral in the US. And I had, no joke, 250 comments of people just saying bread, but written phonetically how a New Zealander would say it. So BREID or BRID. 250 comments. I was just scrolling through them. It just kept happening. And I was like, this is insane. At the start, I thought it was so funny. And then I was like, no, okay, this feels like not very nice.
It's attacking me.
I'm just saying how I say things. But yeah, you get people going, oh, I'm sure you get the same, just don't eat out then.
Oh, yeah.
Stay home if it's that much of a problem. Brad, as if you've ever had an issue that has never affected anyone else in your life. We've all got things.
I feel like some people just don't. I think there are some small community that has never experienced any adversity in their lives. And I wonder whether that's because that's why they don't have empathy.
Yeah,
because if they haven't ever experienced anything, or they experience it so much that they are trauma blocking it.
Yeah, true.
So that they can't empathize with it. There's always empathy. It's because you don't have empathy that you are saying this, because there's no way that you would just go stay in then to a normal person. As in to anyone that in your life you go, oh, what, you can't have it, stay home.
Yeah.
You what?
So honestly, I have to remind myself, I go, they just get me so fired up, some of them. And I go, no. This doesn't deserve your energy, because I will ruminate on it and I'll be like, I wonder if they replied. So I literally have mostly put a blanket rule, unless it's so bad it's funny.
Yeah.
And I can make a joke about it.
Yeah.
I'll just be like, block, ignore.
I delete.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one went viral, viral for me. And it was I literally put it up on the hopes of my community would find this funny.
Yeah.
You're smug. Why should we cater for you? It's just so funny. And I still to this day get comments. On my page, we're positivity, and I don't want any of my community coming and seeing what you're saying, and they are scared to travel.
Exactly.
Like, no.
Or like, hey, what are you losing not having a bag of nuts for what, like 4 hours? So you go through so many periods of 4 hours in your life where you don't eat nuts. Think about that.
That is a reel. I'm literally going to put that on a reel.
Like, it's just insane to me. Like, I wouldn't ever eat nuts on an airplane, like, full stop. There's actually a lot of things that just probably from following people like you and Daniel, I go like, well, what's the point? Someone may, like, now that you say that there are people that feel anxious to speak up or like ask for a nut allergy announcement, it even reinforced me to be like, yeah, I would never buy them. If I'm getting snacks and I see it has nuts in it, I'll just wait until I'm home. I don't need to eat them right now. It's freaking ridiculous. I really feel for you for that. That's
Thank you
awful.
so much. Thank you.
Just freaking understanding other people's plights, and it doesn't take anything away from an individual, and that's what annoys me. It's just that sort of like, oh, well, you know, I should be able to do this. I should be able to do this. It's like, yeah, okay. But like when it's actually affecting people, maybe you just don't. Just don't for a bit. Like, and it's not, it's really, that's the type of comments that really frustrate me because my gluten-free diet doesn't affect you freaking Anthony in Iowa. Like, I'm never coming into your house and throwing out all of your ciabatta or your sourdough loaves. I'm not going to be doing that. In fact, the only time you're really going to be seeing someone with a gluten-free diet is because for some reason one of my videos has gone in front of your For You page and you could just scroll by.
Do you think that your performing background has helped you in being like finding the humor in things?
Yes, I think it's helped me. I work, as you'll know, from going to a performing arts school or degree. Was it a degree? I don't know.
It was a degree.
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
I have a degree in performing arts.
As do I. For mine, I went to a musical theatre school in Christchurch, and it was they tear you down.
Yeah, I was just about to say about the trauma. Do you think the humor comes from trauma?
I'd say there's definitely, like, I am definitely the type of person that placates and distracts from situations when people are getting tense. I'm like, hey, look at me, I'm a jester. I've always done that from childhood. And then when you get to performing arts school, it's just such a unique experience. Like, it's so funny, like the theatre kid, like, stereotype that you have is so true, but also there's so much that isn't really talked about, and that's like how it's just so traumatic sometimes. Like, it's competitive and you're up in front of your peers and your teachers and you're being ripped to shreds. And I went to that school because I loved acting, but it was the closest school that it was a performing arts vibe, but you also had to sing and dance. And so I wasn't necessarily a singer, and I had to sing in front of people, which was routinely, for the 3 years I was there, we had to do it like basically once every month, once every couple of months. And you'd stand in front of every single person in the school, all of the freaking teachers, and you'd sing, and they would be like, and it's so, like, there is nothing worse than that feeling. I don't think that there will ever be worse, like in a sort of embarrassment / like lack of confidence sense. Like, there are obviously worse things to go in the world, but that helped because I now don't care.
People have always like, what, are you never embarrassed?
No.
I'm like, never embarrassed.
Can't be bothered.
Never embarrassed. I actually find it so amusing.
Yeah. I actually remember there's quite a poignant memory I have when I think I was 13 at school, and I decided I want to do drama, and I started doing, or maybe we were put into like an elective drama class, and I was like, I really enjoy this and I want to be good at this. And I somehow identified that the thing that was holding me back was embarrassment. Not just me, every single person in my class, because you get up there and you dick around, you're like, I'm too cool for this. And I was like, no, for some reason I was like, that is not how you get good at this. And I identified what, in me, it was the embarrassment that I felt. And for some reason, I remember as a 13-year-old going, I'm just not going to be embarrassed anymore.
Mm.
I'm just going to not. Obviously, that didn't help. Like, that didn't work necessarily, but I was just like, every time an embarrassment feeling came out, I was like, this is just embarrassment. It was way worse once I did my musical theatre degree, like, because you just get sort of ripped, torn to shreds, built back up. But yes, since those experiences, I'm happy to put myself on camera. I'm happy to speak on stage. I'm happy. Like, I love a stage. I love a microphone.
Oh, and I love how you said built back up, because I don't think that they built me back up.
No, I think you build yourself back up.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
left in sort of a pile and you have to figure out what to do from there. And my building back up didn't happen until well after I'd left the degree. Probably
I feel like this is a
until
whole nother
last year.
This is a whole nother podcast, because honestly, but I think because people say to me, "Oh, your confidence must come from your acting background," and I go, "No, because my confidence came early.
Yeah.
It's why I thought I should go into acting.
Yeah.
Because I was alive when I was on stage.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I should be an actor then. Everyone said, be an actor.
Yeah.
Drama school broke me.
Mm.
It tore down my confidence. All like every single day, I felt like I wasn't good enough. It's why I decided not to, because I was like, well, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
They don't think I'm good enough, so I'm not going to.
The favourite.
And then I had to force myself
Yeah.
to believe that I was good.
Yeah.
Still have what they said in the back of my head every
Yeah.
time I like do anything like this.
Yeah.
And like I still have there was one there was one time, I'm gonna cut this out, but they talk about travel.
Slay. Okay.
You were born not here.
So true.
You weren't born here. And you moved here.
Yeah. 100%.
So you had to fly.
I did.
Yeah. So that would mean that you traveled here. But you travel a lot now. Did you always travel when you were not here? That's the question.
So when I was in New Zealand, did I travel lots?
Yeah.
Maybe like a yearly trip.
Okay.
But I've been to Japan a couple of times, and I'd been to Australia, and I'd been to Fiji. New Zealand's just so far away from everywhere.
Yeah.
So you've got about 3 or 4 hours to Australia, to one side of Australia, 11 hours to the other side. Japan's 11 hours away. Fiji and a lot of the islands are about 4.5 hours away. So that were the only places I travelled to. So when I moved over here, I originally came just on a 2-year visa, and the plan was to see as much of Europe and surrounds that I could, and then pandemic. So I didn't really get to do as much travel as I would have liked, and a lot of the travel that I did do was pre having like an Instagram. So a lot of people go like, "Oh, do you have any recs for this?" And I like just Belgium. Someone asked me this morning, and I was like, "I went there and I enjoyed it. Can't for the life of me remember where I went."
When you are traveling,
Yeah.
because you are traveling a little bit more now that I see, what do you find that's hard and what do you find that's easy?
Hard, just the classic things. Like, I find it hard when I'm traveling with family or people or just other people, probably other than James, my partner, because then you have to do the whole, like, he gets it because he lives with me, but not everyone gets it. So you have to do the whole, oh, thanks, no thanks, actually no. And then they'll go, oh, look, they've got gluten-free options. And then you have to be like, oh, well, yeah, I know, but, like, are they actually gluten-free? Fries, blah, blah, blah. You have to do that whole, like,
Spiel.
Jig. And I do literally jig. I'm like, yeah, well, I'll be fine.
Yeah,
Don't
I
worry about
don't need to eat.
No, I'm actually had a big breakfast.
I actually wine's fine.
Yeah, olives. Yep, great. I'll be fine. And so I do that, and that's the hard part. But aside from that, I'm happy to self-cater. I'm happy to make sure I've packed my lunches. It's a little bit more effort, but I would never want it to stop anyone from seeing the world. And that's probably the biggest thing. Is I know a lot of people go, oh, I don't want to travel because how, like, what will I eat? Blah, blah, blah. Like, you can do it, and it can be done. And actually, it's like almost like I travel to do food tourism now, basically, because I want to try everything everywhere. And I want to find specifically national foods or national dishes that someone has made gluten-free. Like, there was this amazing Japanese restaurant called Little Bird. It's closed since the pandemic. But they did everything gluten-free. They like yakisoba, okonomiyaki, like girls ate everything. They did every single like classic Japanese food. They made a gluten-free version of it. The menu was like freaking massive, and the restaurant fit like 4 people. So I do see why it may have closed. But it was like so amazing. So that is sort of the high I'm chasing when I'm traveling. But aside from that, if I'm doing like a relax holiday, I'll just get a place with a kitchen, and I don't want to come across like I'm going, it's easy, but I want to like make sure people know that it can be easy. If that makes sense. Like reassuring people to go like you can have a great time and it shouldn't stop you. I get it. I get that it's hard, and I get it's a big adjustment, and it's generally more work than anyone else, and you might have to walk 45 minutes to find a bakery. Please, I'll walk an hour and a half. I'll probably walk 2 hours, but
I'd walk
not
5 if there was ever a nut-free bakery, but then I still wouldn't eat it because I'd be too scared. Like, I'd still go, but I'm still putting it in the freezer just in case.
Yeah.
No, I get that, and I think I have that when I travel. I think I'm traveling a lot more now, but I think social media makes me want to.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, people are still going, I'm too scared, I'm not sure. And I'm like, you know what? No, I've traveled my whole life and there is a way. I have so many allergies. I just don't. We have the opposite of I don't eat.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care about eating. I'll bring food.
Yeah.
I'll pack. I'll do an Airbnb or I will find somewhere. Luckily, there's loads of apps now that you can find somewhere that other people have tried, and then you're like, okay, I can try this.
Yeah.
But I just don't care about eating when I travel. I'm traveling to see a place.
The world.
Yeah. Bring your own food. Like, or even in supermarkets, I go in and there's still something that you know, like a brand you know most of the time, because you get lots of things that get imported, especially 100%. In Europe. So I'm like, I'm still like, I can eat yogurt. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll eat yogurt, I'll eat a banana, and I'm fine. Like, that's
my breakfast. That's my literally go-to breakfast. I'm like, yogurt and a banana.
Yeah. But see, and we connect. Like, different allergies, but like, we connect, right? And like, that for me is so simple. But I try now. Now I ask the restaurants. Yeah. I email them before, because I'm doing it for socials, because I want them to realize that it doesn't have to be scary. Like you said, like it is a lot of work, but actually if you do the planning and do the preparation, your holiday is going to be so much easier. The hardest thing for me would be never traveling again. Yes. That for me would be harder.
To feel like you were trapped somewhere.
Yeah.
I just also want to jump on to the end of that and say that like we're also lucky that there are most places will have a dedicated gluten-free something. Yeah. Whereas I'm sure that they wouldn't do that for nut / maybe even any other allergies apart from dairy-free getting folded into like a plant-based place. Yeah. You know, so I do think if your allergies are just gluten, I think we're lucky in a sense. You know, do you know what I mean?
It's the same thing of like, I don't think anyone is ever worse or better. No. I feel like we're all just managing. Yeah. Like that's the biggest thing. It's why I do this podcast, is because I want people to see that we're all just managing in our own way, and we're doing what we need to do to do it, but we're all just human beings. Yeah. I've known more about you and who you are just by talking to you now, even though I've been following you for years. Exactly. Just to have this conversation and to understand your mindset around it. And I think that people following you can see that, it's hard, but you're embracing the levity of life, because life is hard anyway. Whether you have allergies or not, life is hard. We all deal with something. We have to keep some levity in our life. Otherwise we just will get bogged down into the fear, the pain.
100%. And it comes back to, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. It's just to really surmise, and it's one of those things. It's just like, why not have a laugh about it? Yeah. Instead of, there's so much doom and gloom, just like we all experience it. It's all a bit silly. At the end of that, it's a little bit funny, and we live. Yeah. I recently left my full-time job just to do...
I mean, that was one of my questions. I was like, you've changed careers.
But that was the reason I was like, I'm not actually happy here, and life's short, and I want to experience other things, so I'm just going to go. Yeah. The thing that I would fear more so is regret, being like, oh, I could have done it. Oh, why didn't I? Yeah. Why was I fearful? That relates to everything we're talking about, to be fair.
I mean, why you can be scared while doing it. Yeah. Like, I'm scared all the time.
Adrenaline.
Yeah. I'm scared every time I get on a plane. Yeah. But I get on the plane. Yeah. I am terrified anytime, because someone asked me, do you not get scared? And I was like, I get scared all the time. Yeah. I've just done everything I can do.
Yeah.
And then now I go,
Mm-hmm.
and then I come home and I'm like, oh, okay. But I get scared going to work. They eat nuts. I get scared going to work.
Tube?
No, I drive. But tube, like, I am always on the lookout of a bag being opened or anything.
Yeah.
But I can't not live a life because of that.
Yeah.
I always ask at the end of the episodes,
Yes.
how are you feeling? How is your mental health at the minute?
Oh, great question. I'm tired because I'm working too much, but genuinely quite happy. I have periods of stress and anxiety. I've got OCD that I deal with, but on the whole, looking up was a lot worse. I'm on the way up, so I'm genuinely quite happy, and I have really enjoyed this conversation. Of course.
I think once you work for yourself,
yeah,
you realize that actually it's
I
a
actually
lot of
thought
work.
no, literally, I was like, oh my god, because I'd been doing social media on the side for so long. I was like, I'm gonna have so much time back. I couldn't have been more wrong. Like the other day, I'm like, I should just try do a meetup. Oh, shut up, Morgan. I need to finish my freaking cookbook. Like, someone needs to tell me to stop because, it's ridiculous. But I think I've done all the recipes. I need to take photos of one more thing and then I'm done. And then I need to write it.
And then I have to write the book.
Yeah. Actually, most of it's done. I need to add in like another 20 recipes. But I need to stop because every time I go like, actually, maybe, do you know what'd be fun? I'm going to follow, I'm too whimsical.
I feel that. When's your birthday?
I'm an Aquarius.
Oh. See, I don't know much about Aquarius.
Yeah, it's probably right. You shouldn't. They're all right, I guess.
I'm going to research this. What I'm going to do.
Do you know what? No, please. And also tell me what you think. But also sometimes someone will be like an Aquarius and I'll be like, yeah, I get it.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for joining me and having this chat because honestly, I could talk for hours. And I feel like you got the levity out of me.
That's nice.
Like, sometimes it can go quite deep.
Yeah.
And like, I feel it's nice to embrace my humor side. And it's like, it's deep, but like you can have fun.
That's very cool.
So yeah.
Couldn't want for anything more, to be honest.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
I don't want to hear my... That's
it's crazy,
strange
right?
Feeling.
But that's why I say it's very much like you get so into it.
Yeah,
so
my
deep
God,
into
my
it.
ears.
Okay, here we go.